Remember him before he dismembers you. Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by once again, coming at you for one of my famed movie / Blu-ray reviews. Today I'll be reviewing the movie and Blu-ray of Offerings. Remember him before he dismembers you. First I'll talk about the movie, then I'll talk about this Blu-ray that came out at some point. So my history with Offerings doesn't go back very far at all. I think I can remember seeing this cover art in video stores in the 80s and the 90s and stuff, but it was never one that I got. Maybe because of the cover art. Maybe I thought it was like a Christmas horror movie or something like that. I don't know. Something about just the Christmas package or birthday, gift package thing with the blood didn't really interest me. I guess never interested me enough to actually see this title. I do think the cover is really kind of cool, and especially now looking at it so many years later compared to posters for new movies that come out these days. The poster is really cool for a horror movie. This this present gift package with this blood dripping out the bottom, being held by big, huge, bulky, potentially murderous hands is a pretty cool cover. I don't know, I imagine I was on blue-ray.com or something like that. On the top of the website they often have this, or they always have this place where you can see price drops or current sales on the top of blue-ray.com. I would imagine this particular title went on sale or something like that, and that's what brought my attention to it. It seems to me like I saw I may have seen all or at least some of this on YouTube before I decided to buy the Blu-ray, and then I decided to buy the Blu-ray, and the rest is history, of course. This is just like so many movies, like He Knows You're Alone and Sorority House Massacre. This movie is a kind of a blatant, like, Halloween, rip-off, Halloween being, a rip-off of the movie Halloween from 1978. Obviously the guy who made this movie was a big fan of the original Halloween, and even so much so, like with He Knows You're Alone, I think the music that's featured in this movie has a Halloweenish rip-off. And it's funny because I think he was already doing it, like Alan Howarth was already doing it in '88 with Halloween 4. If he wasn't doing it in '88 with the music, he did it in '89, where it was I don't think it was ever done until the late '80s with the music, where it was kind of that dun 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 dun. I can't remember, I don't know who did it first, Alan Howarth with Halloween 4 or 5 or the music for this movie, but there's several times throughout the movie the same kind of, theme plays like that, kind of almost like the first quarter or first half of the Halloween theme or something like that. It's really, really kind of funny. This movie, I think, was shot and produced and made in Oklahoma, if memory serves, and I'm pretty sure I saw the guy's name. I don't remember what he did, but Tim Boggs, I want to say, directed Blood Lake. I think he was the director of Blood Lake. If Tim Boggs didn't direct Blood Lake, he had something to do with Blood Lake. But I think Tim Boggs had something to do with this production as well. As a matter of fact, you can hear actually music and a sound effect, that stupid laughing thing that squirts characters in the face with water in Blood Lake. You can hear some of the music from Blood Lake and that stupid laughing thing in this movie, when the characters are supposed to be watching a horror movie and stuff. And it's possible that the person who did the music for this movie also did the music for Blood Lake. If not, they sound very similar. But basically this movie revolves around, once again, a very Halloweenish kind of rip-off idea, which is the beginning of the movie starts. This movie came out in 1989, so the beginning of this movie starts basically in 1979, where you've got this kid who's being raised, this mute kid who's being raised by this really nasty kind of, potentially abusive mom. And I can't remember all the details with what happened to the dad or why the mom's got a knife slit scar on her throat or whatever. I don't remember if the kid tried to kill mom or whatever, but whatever. What ends up happening at the beginning of this movie is there's this one blonde girl that shows up and is really nice to this mute boy, and they go out and play or whatever, and then the neighborhood bullies come around and it's like, nah, 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 you're such a pansy, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, and they kind of talk him into, doing a dare or whatever. God, being a kid sucked. I'm so glad I never have to do that again, or at least not in this life. So they basically tease and make fun of this kid and dare him to go to the this neighborhood well, and get up on the because it's made of like bricks or whatever, and get up on it and like walk around it. And then he does it successfully. The mute kid, the poor mute kid who's bullied by all these assholes, but the blonde girl's actually nice to him and plays with him and stuff, checkers and stuff. And this kid is also, it's said by his mom at the early part of the movie, this kid's also said to be a smart kid, so he kind of kicks the blonde girl's ass at checkers all the time. And then to be nice, he does this thing where he kind of makes a move where he knows that she can get a bunch of, checkers of his and stuff to be nice or whatever. Kind of a really cool little interlude between the two kids before the bullies show up. So as I said, they have him go around this well thing, and he does it, of course he's just because he's mute doesn't mean he's an idiot. He's obviously smart and good at playing checkers and good at walking around the well without falling in or whatever. So once he completes that, walk around the well edge thing, that's very harrowing and dangerous, then this one asshole jerk kid goes like, ah! And like scares him, and the kid ends up falling in the well, which is kind of obviously a bummer and very bad for the kid. And all the asshole kids are like, let's get out of here. Let's go, let's leave him, let's get out of here. No, it's us or whatever. And then so cut to like 10 years later, very much like with Halloween, not that it was 10 years later, but now we've got this character who's a bigger, more bulky kind of a, physique, very kind of similar in a way to the physique of the character from Sorority House Massacre, and he's kind of portrayed the same way, where he doesn't wear a mask, but they just really never show his face. It's funny how, I wonder if the person who made this movie not only saw and liked Halloween, but saw and liked Sorority House Massacre, because there's similarities, from both movies, Halloween, and it's funny how the killer in this movie is more akin to the killer in Sorority House Massacre, just where he's all just, kind of plain, non-really descript, individual, nothing really amazing about him, muscular or anything like that. And they don't, he doesn't wear a mask or anything, but they don't really show his face very much throughout the course of the movie until maybe the very end and stuff. And it's so funny how, horror movies can just be inspired by other horror movies, which are inspired by other horror movies, which potentially inspire this horror movie. It's just kind of funny. But, cut to 10 years later in 1989, there's this, it's very much with like The Burning, where you've just got this asshole staff, just showing this guy how they're showing this other nurse woman how he's just been a vegetable for 10 years, and he's just a vegetable, and this asshole doctor guy or hospital guy takes out his gum and puts it on this character's nose and just has a conversation with this woman while the gum's on his nose, and afterwards he takes it off and puts it back in his mouth, which is like, okay then. But basically what ends up happening, of course, is, this kid who fell in the well 10 years ago and presumably has been comatose, or what's that word that Sally Hardesty was in, after the events of Chainsaw 1? Oh yeah, catatonic. So this character is probably just catatonic for the 10 years since the falling in the well or whatever. So for whatever reason, he wakes up now and basically it's kind of sad because he kills the nurse who wasn't mean to him or anything, but he kills the nurse and escapes. And it's so funny how the hell he escapes. It's like, Jesus, talk about, it's not only no security, it's like anti-security, where he just walks out. It's just so freaking funny how he walks out. You kind of laugh at how the killer got out of the mental asylum in Sorority House Massacre, and it's just like, at least he ran out. This guy just like walks out, and it's just like so, oh my god, it's so funny. It should be said that this movie, in my opinion, has a relatively, a lot of times a horror, this is a really low budget movie, a lot of times a horror movie of this budget has a kind of an equally crappy script to go with an equally crappy production. This movie, I would say, has a higher tier kind of a script. Like the script is actually better than what the production ended up being. The production being, whoever, well, I think the guy who wrote it directed it as well, but the script, in my opinion, is a lot better than the overall, the way the film ended up. Like the production, you can just tell by watching the movie and just how things are shot and stuff like that, and the lighting and stuff, that it's a very, 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 very low budget movie, which is fine. I go in for, I'm all in. I go all in for this kind of stuff. But I just usually, in my experience, a movie like this will have, the script will kind of equal the production. But this one, I think the script goes, towers, maybe not all that high, but higher above the production than, you know, what they were able to achieve with the camera and lighting and stuff like that. So obviously what ends up happening is the character breaks out, and, you know, very much with, like, obviously the guy was probably inspired by Halloween, the original Halloween 1 and 2, and maybe possibly the sister aspect of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers of the original Halloween 2, and basically what ends up happening is this guy goes back to, you know, that town or whatever, and now this blonde girl who was nice to him, now being grown up and or whatever, you know, 10 years older and stuff, possibly early 20s. I don't know if they're probably going to college now in this movie, because they were probably like, you know, maybe 11 or 12 in, you know, the opening of the movie, so now they're 21 or 22 or something like that. So this, you know, this blonde girl that was nice to him is just going about her life, whatever, going to potentially college, whatever. And there's a funny scene at this I can't remember, I only seen this twice, and I can't remember exactly the particulars of this funny scene. There's this hot, well, not, I mean, kind of fairly attractive female teacher who gets this guy's drawing that he drew of her or whatever. Is this me? And you know, it's kind of, there's some funny, see, the thing I like about this movie is there's some of the, I don't know, scenes or some of the things that the characters say, or some of the, whatever you want to call it, just things that go on in this movie, either just, you know, verbally or just things that are happening on screen, are kind of funny, clever, you know, things that the director writes and whips up and stuff like that. So I really give this movie props for actually having for being so low budget, actually having, you know, dialogue and scenes that come across every now and then that are actually kind of funny and actually make you, you know, genuinely funny and actually make you laugh. But the premise of this movie is this killer coming back to this town or whatever, and of course getting revenge on you know, the bullies and stuff who, you know, made fun of him and made him fall into the well. Unlike, like, you know, one of the only good things in my opinion about the original Prom Night is the fact that you know, you have this incident very similar. This also takes, you know, this also very similar to Prom Night as well, where the incident, you know, where the kids caused an accident, you know. In that movie, they're each one of them, you know exactly which kid as the adult version, you know. You know which one the adult, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know which one of the adult was which kid, you know, from the beginning. This one I don't think, and if you do, I didn't pay attention, but I don't think you really get to know, you know, which adult kid or is which kid from the beginning. That kind of stuff doesn't really matter. So what he ends up doing is coming back and getting revenge on I can't remember if he kills any girls in this movie, or if it was just, it seems to me like there might have been one bully girl. I don't know if they were all bully guys or whatever, but anyway, he kills at least some of the kids that bullied him and caused him to fall into the well at the beginning of the movie. And what's really cool, one thing that I really love about this movie that the writer adds to the movie, you know, ripping off a lot of aspects of Halloween and stuff, is the one thing, and of course it goes along with the title, that's different from this movie than Halloween, is that offerings. Basically, after he kills all the bullies and stuff, he basically goes and, you know, cuts off pieces. Like the first thing I think is an ear or something like that, and he leaves it on the doorstep of the cute blonde girl as an offering or whatever, as something that's supposed to be, you know, like here, it's, I guess, a positive, fun thing or whatever. Obviously this kid is not all there, even though he might be intelligent or whatever. His idea of a gift to a girl he likes or who was nice to him is, you know, giving her human body parts. I guess, you know, having been put away for 10 years, he might not really have an idea of what a late 80s girl wants as a gift. So, you know, that's the movie more or less, and you know, that's what explains the title, Offerings. He'll kill someone and leave an ear on the doorstep. And what's funny is, like, I don't remember all the particulars, but at one point, like, the dog, or the first thing was like a finger that he left, and I think the dog just, you know, grabbed it up and walked away with it before any human in the movie saw it. And later on, he'd leave an ear, you know, so probably every time he kills someone, maybe leave a different appendage or whatever. Later on, he'd leave an ear, and the girls would actually end up seeing that and calling the cops. And this one fat cop in the movie, I swear I've seen this guy in something else as well. This guy who plays this fat cop in the movie seems very familiar to me. But he ends up coming on by and, you know, putting the ear in a baggie and just telling the girls to hunker down and, stay safe. And at one point leaves like a deputy to protect them. Maybe that's later on after they get the nose or whatever, because, first he leaves an offering after a victim of a finger, then he leaves an offering after a victim of an ear, and then later on, I think the last one is like the nose he leaves and stuff. And another thing that's really funny, I think after the finger was left, this girl and her girlfriend and the two boyfriends come over to watch a movie. It's just like this, probably Blood Lake or whatever the hell they're watching on the TV, and they order a pizza, but it doesn't like show up until like an hour later or something like that, and then they're eating the pizza, and it's like, oh, I didn't know you ordered sausage. Sausage, and she's like, I didn't order sausage, and it's just like, God, this doesn't even taste like sausage. So it's really kind of nasty. Me being a big pizza enthusiast, it kind of almost puts me off a little bit, but I'm never going to give up pizza. Just the whole fact that it is done in a very kind of dark humor, kind of a way where Jesus, obviously he's indicating, the writer / director is indicating that there's, body parts of the bullies he killed on this pizza or whatever, some kind of, fleshy, parts of the victims on the pizza or whatever that's, posing for sausage. It's almost like enough to put you off your pizza. So that's the basic gist of the movie. I think the kills, I don't know. The one I really like is I think it might be the first one, where he like puts this kid's head down in a vise on a workbench or something like that, and he's gonna like chainsaw him up, and then the chainsaw stops running, and then he throws that down and grabs a drill, and he's gonna drill him in the head, and that stops running, and he ends up just taking a hammer and like just tightening, hitting the vice thing to tighten the vice thing, to keep tightening it until his head explodes. You don't see it on screen. It's more like you see the shadow and just the blood splatter onto the shadow of the wall. But that kill, I think, is probably the most entertaining one for me, because it's like this three-parter where it's really kind of funny how the two power tools don't work, and it's a humorous skill in that regard. And again, it's kind of like dark humor, where it's just like, okay, well, these two power tools don't work, how can I make this happen? And he's like, I'll just hammer the vice tight that his head's already in or whatever. So that's kind of funny. There's another one involving this character who gets hung right outside the window of the house, where his parents could, or like having a snack late at night and watching something funny on TV, and him just being, hanging outside the window where they could easily see him if they would just glance a little bit to the left or to the right or whatever. So, the kills are not particularly amazing, but even if they're not amazing, I mean, some of them are done in a way that are really just kind of fun and humorous, and kind of a fun tongue-in-cheek aspect to the movie. One of the things I don't want to forget to mention is the blonde girl's kind of girlfriend in this movie is relatively attractive. Nothing amazing, but kind of really, for me, embodies like late 80s teenage, girl in a horror movie. She's really kind of, the darker hair girl, and she's not amazingly hot or cute or anything like that, but I just like her. I do like how she looks in the persona that she has. The kind of like southern, her and the blonde are kind of like Southern Valley girls, if you will, in this movie. And the goings on with them, where like the parents are away, the parents of the blonde girl are away, and as the movie wears on, it's like she keeps getting, she gets the ear and then the nose, and it's just like, oh my God. And I can't really remember exactly. Oh, I think her friend, dark-haired friend, ends up getting her head cut off or something like that, and he's going to offer that to her or whatever. But the thing that's different about this movie is, unlike Halloween, the original Halloween or Halloween 2, like, the thing that's different about this movie is the final girl in this movie isn't under any kind of threat. The killer has no intention of killing the final girl, if you will, in this movie, and that's what really sets this horror movie apart from pretty much the majority of horror movies that I've seen. Is really kind of interesting, where he's just killing people because he just wants to get revenge on them, or they're getting in the way, and also just as a an act of kindness, offering their body parts to this girl he likes and who has been kind to him in his past, in his past childhood 10 years ago and stuff. kind of a really, kind of a unique aspect of this movie. So I won't spoil how the movie ends. I will say that it's kind of bittersweet or whatever, a lot like, maybe the ending of the King Kong, maybe, the original King Kong, kind of sad, because the intentions of the quote-unquote monster in this movie towards the actual, woman, blonde in this case, just like with Fay Wray in the original King Kong, aren't bad. They're like endearing intentions and affectionate intentions and stuff. But so I will say that the ending of the movie can be actually, not in a huge way, but actually kind of a sad ending, the way things work out. And I will say that what they do, I think they do some kind of a makeup to the kid who plays the killer's like brow or something. But one thing that's cool about the killer in this movie is you don't really see his face very often, but when you do see it, it's really has some kind, he just has this no expression. It's almost like trying to almost do like a Michael Myers, Captain Kirk mask out of just an actual person's face. It's almost like I think they put like some kind of a brow appliance on to make him look, because I think in the movie his head, got injured, or his frontal lobe or something like that got injured, which led him to, his ideas, or being able to tell the difference between right and wrong as a result of that frontal lobe injury, is now screwed up or whatever, and that's why he's just killing people or whatever. But I think the face of, when you do see towards the end of the movie, the face of the killer kid or killer guy or whatever the hell you want to call him, with the potential like appliance on his forehead or whatever, and something they do with some kind of appliance, whether it's just the forehead or his whole face or something, and just the pale blank expression of the character, as you see him, a few times you do see his face, it's kind of almost like, more so than like the killer in Sorority House Massacre. I think they almost tried to do like a Captain Kirk mask or Michael Myers mask without having him wear a mask to a certain extent, so that was kind of cool. So at the end of the day, I like Offerings quite a bit, and I think it is, while it's also ripping off, Halloween like so many movies have done before, I think it's also adding something kind of unique to the situation as well. But I'm only going to be able to go like I'll go as high as 2.5 stars out of 4 stars for Offerings. It's not something that I can go crazy high on the starage, but it's a movie that I think is relatively unique in the genre. And it's funny how it's came out like in the last year of the 80s and stuff, when most movies were doing this 10 or 5 years ago. It's kind of funny how Offerings comes out in 89 or whatever, and that's really kind of a cool aspect about the movie. But there's things about the movie that aren't really that amazing, like the fat cop or whatever, or certain aspects of this or that. But the things that are fun about the movie, like the twisted kind of dark sense of humor, I really appreciate, and some of the kills are kind of fun, and just the low budget aspect of just the performers and the characters and just the situations are just generally enjoyable for the most part. So 2.5 stars for Offerings. Now on to my Blu-ray review. This is just the weirdest Blu-ray release, because it's like, I don't know, it's put out by its company that's just a little known company. As a matter of fact, on the spine there's a 1, so I can only assume that this is the first release that this outfit has ever put out. Before, on the back here, it says darkforcedvd.com. Dark Force Multicom Entertainment Group Incorporated. I don't know. This is probably, as I said, the very first release from this company. Special features leave a little to be desired. It just says brand new 16:9 scene-by-scene color-corrected HD master original theatrical trailer horror coming attractions from Dark Force Entertainment. One thing I appreciate, of course, is the Blu-ray, of course, using the original VHS home video cover art, which is really, in retrospect, really kind of cool. It does obviously make it look like a birthday or Christmas themed horror movie. That's, I guess, one of my complaints about the cover art. This particular release looks to be region free, got ABC, so that's obviously great for anyone on this planet who wants to see it. Other planets might not be able to watch it unless you have a Blu-ray player from this planet. So this is quite the interesting Blu-ray release, being a company that this might very well be the very first Blu-ray release from this particular distributing company. It's not the most amazing Blu-ray presentation you'll ever find. I'm pretty sure, as I said, I watched a little bit, if not the whole thing, at least a little bit of the VHS transfer on YouTube before I decided to buy the Blu-ray. And obviously it's a lot better than that, and you know, brighter and just more clear and stuff like that. I don't know what, you know, I guess I do kind of have a problem with the transfer, and it's just weird. It's kind of like the Blu-ray transfer of, if you've seen the Arrow Video Blu-ray transfer of Blood Rage, where just the same color seems to just permeate the movie, like the flesh tones or something. It's just like I don't know, like the flesh tones, and so many things just look like the flesh tones, and it's just like, I really can't describe, you know, how this transfer is just like the same color is so prevalent in the transfer, and I don't know, it's obviously a better transfer than you're probably going to find on a DVD release, but the Blu-ray transfer, you know, keep your expectations, I guess, you know, not that high for this particular transfer. It's not something like, you know, an Arrow Video transfer or a Scream Factory transfer. It's very much comes across as a transfer that's very done by a company that maybe hasn't done much, you know, this stuff before. But, you know, the Blu-ray definitely gets the job done. It's probably the best way to experience offerings on, you know, at home or whatever. So, you know, you can't really fault it for that. I mean, I guess it probably did the best it could do or whatever with their limited resources of being a smaller distribution company, I would imagine. And definitely thankful to whoever this outfit is for having done this, because if they hadn't done it, chances are this movie wouldn't be on Blu-ray. If you look at the back cover here, there's a good picture of this character who's got a really creepy face. It's possible, it looks like, you know, when I look at it closer here, that they may have done like an appliance on his forehead and that one side of his face, looking at the back of the cover here. But I mean, this is what I mean, like, look at how creepy that face is. It's almost like a, you know, a quote-unquote Michael Myers mask that they did with just the guy's actual face. So that's kind of a cool gimmick. Opening up the Blu-ray case, you'll find the artwork on the disc very different from the cover art. As a matter of fact, I mean, I can only assume this is alternate cover art, maybe from another country or something like that, but it's almost kind of gothic or something, like this house that I don't think was necessarily featured in the movie, and this random blonde chick in peril or whatever, and I don't know what that, just his knife or whatever. I don't really know what's going on in on the disc art here. I like it, and like I say, I can only assume that this is some alternate cover art from maybe foreign markets or something. You know, definitely recommend it if you're a fan of Halloween, you know, or, you know, He Knows You're Alone or Sorority House Massacre. I'm sure there's other movies I haven't seen also that ripped off the original Halloween and things like that. You know, Prom Night as well, these kind of things. I'd recommend it. I'd probably recommend seeing if you can see it for free on YouTube or elsewhere online before you decide to just blind buy the Blu-ray. But in my opinion, if you can get the Blu-ray for a decent price, definitely something that, you know, most horror fans, you know, could or should have possibly in their collection. I guess that'll pretty much do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.